Look, I'm not saying humans are the most terrifying species in the galaxy. Ambassador Zek Thor clicked his mandibles together nervously, antenna twitching in what his species considered a diplomatic gesture. I'm just saying that any species that considers jogging to be a casual hobby is fundamentally disturbing on a psychological level. Oh, come on. Lieutenant Rain Winters rolled her eyes, leaning back in her chair with the casual indifference that made the Tiskri diplomat's exoskeleton quiver. That's just basic cardiovascular maintenance. Wait until you see what we do for fun. The meeting room aboard the Galactic Confederation vessel Harmonious Exchange had been designed to accommodate 27 different species' anatomical and atmospheric requirements, which meant it was a bizarre hodgepodge of furnishings, environmental chambers, and translation devices. Somehow, despite the Confederation's best efforts at inclusivity, it still managed to look like a fever dream designed by a committee of acid-tripping interior decorators with conflicting religious beliefs. Admiral Kostevk, a gelatinous mass of semi-transparent purple tissue encased in what humans had affectionately nicknamed a snot mech, gurgled something that the translator interpreted as, "The human delegation is being deliberately obtuse. Their planet has been classified as a Class 9 death world for very good reasons. Which we've been trying to tell you is a massive overreaction." Commander Leo Walsh chimed in, absently spinning a stylus between his fingers at a speed that made several delegates track the movement like predators fixated on prey. Earth is cozy. The Dravenid representative, resembling nothing so much as a 6-foot-tall dust bunny with eyes, shuddered visibly. Your oceans contain creatures that kill for sport. Orcas are just playful, Winters protested. They throw seals 40 feet in the air for entertainment before consuming them. The dust bunny countered, its voice a horrified whisper. Yeah, but... Winters searched for a defense and found none. Okay, that's fair. The tension in the room was as thick as the specialized breathing fluid in the Aquarian representative's tank. This was the 17th meeting between Earth's diplomatic corps and the Galactic Confederation in as many days, and they were no closer to resolving the fundamental issue. Humanity had been invited to join the interstellar community based on their art, philosophy, and the peaceful signals they'd been broadcasting for centuries, only for the welcoming committee to discover, upon arrival, that humans were essentially space orcs who had somehow developed poetry before figuring out they probably shouldn't live on a planet that actively tried to murder them on a daily basis. Admiral Kstevek's mech whirred as it shifted position. Despite the concerning aspects of human physiology and psychology, the Confederation remains committed to peaceful integration. However, we must insist on containment protocols. Containment? Walsh's casual demeanor vanished. We discussed this. Earth is not accepting any form of quarantine. Not quarantine, Ambassador Zeke Lex Thor clarified quickly, his translator struggling to convey his placating tone. Safeguards. For instance, human military vessels would be limited to defensive armaments only, and... Winters barked a laugh that made 3 different species flinch. You want us to remove our offensive capabilities when there are, 7? Known hostile civilizations in this sector alone? 8, actually. The Dravenid representative corrected, then immediately regretted drawing attention to itself as Winters fixed it with a stare. 8, even better. She smiled in a way that showcased far too many teeth. So your proposal is that we join your little club, but deliberately make ourselves vulnerable to the nasties waiting in the cosmic woods. Hard pass, dust mop. Lieutenant, Walsh said sharply, though his lips twitched with suppressed amusement. The meeting devolved from there, with various representatives expressing concerns about everything from humanity's baffling tolerance for capsaicin, you eat pain for pleasure, to their disturbing ability to repair broken bones. You regrow your internal support structures? By the time the human delegation returned to their ship, the Tenacious Bastard, a name that had required 4 separate translation revisions to avoid causing a diplomatic incident, Admiral Kostevke and his team were still debating whether humans qualified as apex predators or some form of sentient disaster. I need a drink, Winters declared, collapsing into a chair in the ship's officer lounge. Preferably something that would make at least 3 of those delegates dissolve on contact. Can we not joke about dissolving the ambassadors? Captain Eliza Donovan sighed, entering behind them. Her steel-gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her expression suggested she had heard about the dust mop comment. I'm getting comms from Earth Central every 20 minutes asking if we've managed to avoid causing an interstellar incident today. And? Walsh prompted, already at the dispenser requesting what the ship's AI had determined was the closest approximation to Scotch it could synthesize. And I keep having to say not yet, which is not inspiring confidence. Donovan took the glass Walsh offered and dropped into the seat opposite Winters. This is important, people. The Confederation has technology that could revolutionize everything from medicine to energy production. We need this alliance. Winters leaned forward, her expression serious for once. With all due respect, Captain, they're asking us to castrate ourselves militarily while surrounded by potentially hostile forces. That's not an alliance. It's a prelude to becoming a protectorate at best, a sacrifice at worst. They're scared of us, Walsh added more softly. You've seen the reports. Our physiology alone makes us walking nightmares to most of these species. We're stronger, faster, more durable. We can survive radiation levels that would cook most of them, pressures that would crush them, temperatures that would freeze or boil them. And let's not forget they discovered our entertainment, Winters added with a snort. Poor Ambassador Zeklexthor nearly had a cardiac event, all 6 of them, when he found our historical battle reenactments. He thought we were documenting actual ongoing conflicts. Donovan rubbed her temples. I'm aware, but we need to find a compromise. The ship's AI, Area, chose that moment to interrupt. Captain, incoming transmission from Confederation High Command. Priority Alpha. Donovan frowned. That's unusual. Put it through. The holographic display in the center of the lounge flickered to life, revealing Admiral Kustvik's gelatinous form, pulsing with what appeared to be agitation. Captain Donovan. The translation came through with uncharacteristic urgency. We have an emergency situation. The Vika Thraxis fleet has breached Confederation space. 3 outposts have already gone dark. Donovan was on her feet instantly. The Vika Thraxis? I thought they were contained beyond the Cygnus Arm. They were. Now they are not. The Admiral's normal diplomatic veneer had vanished. Their advance fleet will reach Outpost Sigma 9 in approximately 6 hours. There are 14,000 civilians at that installation, predominantly Alorians and T-Scree. The squishy ones and the bug guys, Winters muttered to Walsh, who nodded grimly. What does this have to do with us, Admiral? Donovan asked, though she already knew. Sigma 9 is 3 hours from your current position. The nearest Confederation battle group is 7 hours away. The Admiral's mech seemed to slump slightly. Captain, I am requesting assistance. The 3 human officers exchanged glances. You want us to engage the Vika Thraxis? Donovan clarified. The same species you described yesterday as living embodiments of evolutionary aggression? Yes. The Admiral's translator conveyed no emotion, but the rapid color shifts in his gelatinous form spoke volumes. The same Vika Thraxis that your briefing materials indicate have invaded 6 systems in the last decade with no survivors. Yes. And you want the ship that you yesterday insisted should have its weapons downgraded to defensive capabilities only? There was a long pause. The Confederation formally rescinds that request, Captain Donovan. Winters didn't even try to hide her smile. The tenacious bastard dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Sigma 9 system, sensors immediately sweeping for signs of the Vika Thraxis fleet. Contact, the tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Beckett, announced. 9 vessels approaching Sigma 9. Configuration matches Confederation records of Vika Thraxis war barges. On screen, Donovan ordered, and the bridge view screen filled with the approaching enemy ships. They resembled nothing so much as massive metallic crustaceans, their hulls covered in overlapping plates that Confederation intelligence indicated were harvested from the exoskeletons of conquered species. Charming. Time to intercept? 22 minutes until they reach the outpost, Captain. Donovan nodded. Open a channel to Outpost Sigma 9. The screen split to show a frantic-looking Alorian, its tentacled face analogs writhing in distress. Human vessel. The evacuation is underway, but we have only managed to move 30% of our population to shelters. Our defensive systems are inadequate against the Vika Thraxis weapons. Understood. Continue your evacuation. We'll handle the incoming fleet. Donovan cut the transmission and turned to her bridge crew. Tactical assessment? Beckett was frowning at his console. 9 ships, approximately equivalent to Confederation heavy cruisers in terms of firepower. Their hulls incorporate some kind of organic metallic composite that adapts to energy weapons. Kinetics seem to be their weakness, but you need to hit them hard enough to break through those armored plates. So we're outgunned and outnumbered, Walsh summarized from his position at the operations console. Against any normal enemy, yes, Beckett agreed with a slow smile. But the Vika Thraxis have never encountered humans before. And we have one advantage they don't, Winters added from the helm. Donovan raised an eyebrow. Which is? We're absolutely batshit crazy by galactic standards. Winters grinned. Permission to fly like a human, Captain? A slow smile spread across Donovan's face. Permission granted, Lieutenant. Commander Walsh, activate combat protocols Epsilon 7. Walsh's eyes widened. Epsilon 7? That's completely insane? Yes. Donovan settled back in her command chair. Let's show these Veek Thraxes why Deathworlders make bad enemies. The Veek Thraxes fleet commander, Grok, observed the approaching vessel with the equivalent of contempt. A single ship? He communicated to his subordinates through the biochemical network that linked all Veek Thraxes. The Confederation grows more pathetic with each conquest. This vessel configuration is unknown, his second responded. It does not match any Confederation registry. Irrelevant. Prepare the harvesting beams. Their technology and biomass will be added to our own. The VK Thraxis had built their empire on a simple principle: consume, adapt, evolve. Every species they encountered was either subjugated and farmed for resources or incorporated directly into their technology. They had never known defeat, only setbacks. As the strange vessel approached, Grok felt a momentary pulse of something unfamiliar. The biochemical network translated it as caution, which was so foreign to his experience that he immediately purged the sensation. The unknown ship accelerated suddenly, its velocity increasing beyond what should have been structurally possible. Target locked, his weapons officer reported. Harvesting beam charging. Then the universe went sideways. Executing Crazy Ivan! Winters shouted, hands flying across her console as she cut the main engines and fired the maneuvering thrusters at full power, sending the tenacious bastard into a spin that would have killed most species through G-forces alone. The humans on board, secured in their inertial dampening chairs and pumped full of anti-blackout drugs, merely grunted as their bodies were pressed into the cushioning. The ship rotated a full 180 degrees while maintaining its forward momentum, bringing its aft weapons to bear on the lead Veek Thraxis vessel. Fire tubes 1 through 4, Donovan ordered. The tenacious bastard shuddered as 4 kinetic penetrators, essentially massive tungsten rods accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, launched from the ship's aft tubes. On the tactical display, they watched as the rods struck the lead Veek Thraxis ship. There was no explosion, no dramatic fireball, just 4 neat holes punched through the alien vessel from bow to stern, its systems failing as atmosphere vented from the precision wounds. Direct hit, Beckett reported unnecessarily. 1 down, 8 to go. The remaining Veek Thraxis ships altered their formation, splitting into 2 groups in an obvious attempt to flank the human vessel. They're adapting, Walsh observed. Tactical pattern suggests they've never seen kinetic weapons of this caliber before. Well then, Winters said with a predatory grin. Let's see what else they've never seen before. Permission to execute maneuver Delta 9, Captain? Donovan nodded. Make it so. Delta 9 was a maneuver that had been theoretical until humanity had reached the stars, using the gravitational pull of a nearby stellar body to slingshot a vessel at speeds that would tear most ships apart. The tenacious bastard, however, had been built by a species that had evolved on a planet that routinely tried to kill them with everything from microorganisms to weather. Winters set a course directly toward Sigma 9's star, the engines screaming in protest as she pushed them beyond recommended tolerances. Are we diving into the star? The comm officer asked, eyes wide. Not quite, Walsh explained, his voice strained against the G-forces. We're going to skim the corona, use the gravitational pull to accelerate, then release at the optimal moment to go really fucking fast in an unexpected direction. Winters finished for him. Hang on to your lunches, people. Aboard the Veek Thraxis command ship, Grok was experiencing an unfamiliar emotion. Confusion. The vessel is approaching the star, his navigator reported. Their trajectory will take them into the corona. They seek self-destruction? Grok wondered aloud. Perhaps they are more honorable than most Confederation weaklings. No, his science officer interjected. They are adjusting course to utilize the star's gravitational field. This tactic is unexpected. Grok watched as the alien ship skimmed the outer layers of the star, its shields glowing white-hot with the strain. By all logic, the vessel should have been torn apart, but instead it was accelerating, using the star's gravity well like a slingshot. Recalculate intercept, he ordered, but before his crew could comply, the alien ship had released from its solar orbit, shooting toward the Veek Thraxis fleet at a velocity that their targeting systems couldn't track effectively. Evasive action, Grok commanded, but it was too late. The alien vessel tore through the formation, releasing what appeared to be primitive explosive devices, missiles, as it passed. The Veek Thraxis ships, with their sophisticated energy shields designed to repel particle beams and plasma weapons, had no effective defense against the simple kinetic force of the explosions. 3 more ships were crippled in the attack, venting atmosphere and debris into space. For the first time in his long life, Grok felt something akin to fear crawl through his biochemical network. 5 down, 4 to go, Beckett reported, his voice tight with restrained excitement. Engineering reports the heat sinks are at maximum capacity. We can't pull that maneuver again without a cooldown period. Won't need to, Donovan said calmly. The remaining ships are regrouping. They're not used to losing. Captain, the comm officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the VK Thraxis command ship. Put it through. The view screen flickered to show a creature that resembled a nightmarish fusion of insect and reptile, with multiple compound eyes and a chitinous exoskeleton covered in what looked disturbingly like trophies from other species. Unknown vessel, the translator rendered in a flat mechanical voice. You fight with unexpected skill for Confederation allies. We're not Confederation, Donovan responded, leaning forward in her chair. We're humans, from Earth. There was a pause as the translation was processed. Then, humans. Your species is unknown to us. Your combat tactics are primitive but effective. The Vik Thraxis offer you the honor of surrender. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be preserved within our collective. Winters snorted loudly. Did this bug just offer to assimilate us? Donovan held up a hand for silence. That's very generous of you, but I have a counteroffer. She smiled thinly. You leave Confederation space immediately, or we finish destroying your fleet and send the wreckage back to wherever you came from as a warning. The Vika Thraxis commander made a sound that the translator couldn't process, but which didn't require much interpretation. You are one vessel. We are 4. Your destruction is inevitable. About that. Donovan nodded to Walsh, who typed a quick command into his console. Outside, in the vacuum of space, 8 objects that had previously been masquerading as debris from the earlier battle suddenly lit up with engine signatures. We took the liberty of deploying our siren drones during our little star maneuver, Donovan explained conversationally. Stealth infiltration reconnaissance and engagement nodes. They're currently attached to your remaining vessels, including your command ship. Each one carries a modest payload, just enough to crack those pretty armored hulls of yours. The Vik Thraxis commander's posture changed subtly. You bluff. Commander Walsh, please detonate the siren on their rearmost support vessel, the small one. Walsh pressed a button, and on the tactical display, one of the Vika Thraxis ships suddenly split apart, as if dissected by an invisible knife, its hull plates peeling back as secondary explosions rippled through its interior. Was that a bluff? Donovan asked pleasantly. Now, as I was saying, leave Confederation space, or become a very educational example for the rest of your species. 3 hours later, the tenacious bastard hovered protectively over Outpost Sigma 9 as the last of the Vika Thraxis ships limped away at sublight speeds, having agreed to Donovan's terms with what passed for grudging respect among their kind. The bridge was quieter now, the adrenaline of battle fading into the calm competence that characterized Earth's best officers. Incoming transmission from Admiral Kostvik, the comm officer announced. Donovan, looking slightly worse for wear but still commanding, nodded. On screen, the Admiral's gelatinous form appeared, pulsing with colors that the translator didn't attempt to interpret. Captain Donovan, the Confederation has received your battle telemetry and the report from Outpost Sigma 9. Your actions have saved 14,000 lives. Just doing our job, Admiral. A job that no Confederation vessel could have accomplished. The Admiral's mech shifted slightly. The defensive tactics you employed were unconventional. Winters coughed something that sounded suspiciously like understatement of the century. The Vik Thraxis have never retreated before, the Admiral continued. In all our records, they have either conquered or been temporarily contained. This represents a significant development. Donovan leaned forward. Admiral, with all due respect, this is what humans do. We protect our own. And if you want us as allies, we'll protect yours too. But we do it our way, with our ships, our weapons, and our tactics intact. There was a long pause. The Confederation Security Council has reviewed your actions and the results. While many members find your methods concerning, none can argue with the outcome. Another pause. The containment protocols have been formally withdrawn. Earth will be invited to join the Confederation as a full military ally, with no restrictions on your defensive or offensive capabilities. A cheer went up from the bridge crew. Further, the Admiral continued, the Council has requested that Earth consider establishing a joint military training program with Confederation forces. It seems we have much to learn from Deathworlders. Donovan smiled. We be honored, Admiral. And perhaps in return, you can teach us some of that legendary Confederation diplomacy. I have a feeling we're going to need it. Indeed. The Admiral's colors shifted to what might have been amusement. I should warn you, Captain. News of today's battle is spreading quickly through Confederation space. You may find the perception of humans has evolved. Oh? Donovan raised an eyebrow. How so? Until today, many species viewed humans as dangerous curiosities. Now, after witnessing your defense of Sigma-9 against an enemy we have failed to defeat for centuries, you are being called something else. Which is? Protectors. The Admiral's form pulsed once more. It seems the galaxy has discovered that Deathworlders make the most formidable allies. The Confederation formally welcomes Earth to the stars, Captain. On our terms, but also on yours. As the transmission ended, Winters leaned back in her chair with a satisfied smile. Well, would you look at that? All we had to do was blow up a few ships, and suddenly we're the cool kids at the galactic lunch table. Walsh snorted. I think it was less about blowing things up and more about the fact that we did it to protect others. That's what they don't get about humans, Donovan said, looking out at the stars beyond the view screen. They see our capacity for violence and assume it's our defining characteristic. They don't understand that we developed that capacity precisely because we care so deeply. We fight hardest for what we love most. So what now, Captain? Beckett asked. Donovan smiled. Now? Now we introduce the galaxy to the concept of friends in high places. And maybe, just maybe, teach them that sometimes the most dangerous species in the room is exactly the one you want watching your back. 6 months later, the Galactic Confederation headquarters on neutral planet Harmonious was hosting its first human diplomatic delegation, this time with considerably more respect and considerably less condescension. Ambassador ZKLX Thor, who had been promoted following the Sigma-9 incident, as it was now called, clicked his mandibles nervously as he approached the human group. Ambassador Winters, he greeted, his translator conveying a warmth that would have been impossible 6 months earlier. The Council is ready to receive Earth's formal acceptance of membership. Rain Winters, now sporting diplomatic credentials instead of a lieutenant's insignia, grinned. Lead the way, Ambassador ZKLX Thor. Or should I say friend? The Tiskari diplomat's antennae twitched in what humans now recognized as pleasure. Friend, he agreed. Though I must confess, even after all this time studying your species, you continue to surprise us. Oh? Winters asked, as they walked through the grand hallways of the Confederation building. How so? Just yesterday, I observed a human child during the cultural exchange. This small being, barely developed, was consuming a substance that our scientists identified as containing capsaicin levels that would incapacitate most predatory species, all while explaining the concept of ghost peppers to horrified Dravenid younglings. Winters laughed. Kids, always showing off. This is not concerning to you? Ambassador, where I come from, that's called building character. As they entered the council chambers, a hush fell over the assembled representatives of over 200 species. At the center of the room, Captain, now Admiral Donovan, stood alongside Earth's political delegation, her uniform crisp and decorated with the newly created Sigma-9 distinction, an honor created specifically to acknowledge Earth's first official act as Confederation allies. The Supreme Counselor, a towering avian being whose species had founded the Confederation millennia ago, extended all 4 wings in a formal gesture of welcome. The Galactic Confederation recognizes Earth and welcomes humanity to the stars, the translator conveyed. Where once we saw danger, we now see dedication. Where we feared strength, we now welcome protection. Donovan stepped forward to deliver Earth's response, a carefully crafted statement that had gone through 17 revisions to remove what diplomatic advisors had termed excessive human idioms. The people of Earth thank you for this welcome, she began. We come to the stars not as conquerors, but as explorers, not as predators, but as protectors. We have learned through our own long and often painful history that strength without compassion is merely brutality, and power without purpose is merely waste. She paused, looking around at the assembled representatives. Humanity evolved on a world that challenged us daily to be stronger, faster, more resilient. We fought our planet, and sometimes we fought each other. But what truly defines us is not our capacity for violence. It is our capacity for growth. The chamber was silent, every translator working overtime to convey the nuances of her speech. You called Earth a death world, and you weren't wrong. But what you missed is that surviving a death world doesn't just make you dangerous. It makes you tenacious. innovative, and fiercely protective of life in all its forms. She smiled. We humans have a saying, you never truly know someone until you see how they treat others who can do nothing for them. The Confederation saw us at our best when we defended Sigma-9, but I promise you, that was just humans playing nice. A ripple of something between concern and admiration moved through the chamber. Because if you think we were dangerous when we were playing nice, you should see what happens when someone threatens those we've sworn to protect. Earth is proud to join the Confederation not just as allies, but as guardians. The Deathworlders are here, and we bring with us not just our strength, but our solemn promise. What we love, we defend. What we claim, we keep. And those who stand with us need never stand alone. As Donovan finished speaking, there was a moment of stunned silence, and then, starting from the Elorian delegation whose people had been saved at Sigma-9, a wave of sound that the translators struggled to interpret, but which needed no translation. Applause, in all its varied alien forms. Winters sidled up beside Admiral Kustevic, whose mech was vibrating with what she had learned to recognize as emotional intensity. So, she said conversationally, still think jogging is psychologically disturbing? The Admiral's translator conveyed what might have been a chuckle. Lieutenant, forgive me, Ambassador Winters. I have recently begun studying human recreational activities more thoroughly. I must say, compared to your extreme sports, jogging seems quite reasonable. Wait until you hear about ultramarathons, Winters said with a wink. I am almost afraid to ask. Smart man. Or, well, smart gelatinous mass of semi-transparent purple tissue. That is surprisingly accurate terminology. As the formal ceremony continued, with treaties being signed and diplomatic pleasantries exchanged, Ambassador Zeke-Lex Thor found himself standing next to Commander Walsh, who was observing the proceedings with obvious satisfaction. Your captain, forgive me, your admiral, speaks well, the Tiskri noted, though I detect she left something unsaid. Walsh smiled slightly. She left a lot unsaid, Ambassador. That's diplomacy. Indeed. But perhaps the most important thing she left unspoken is what truly makes your species unique among the stars. And what's that? The ambassador's mandibles clicked softly. In all our records, across thousands of species and millions of years, we have never encountered a sentient race that evolved as apex predators, yet developed such capacity for self-sacrifice. You are the only species we know that will die for an ideal, that will fight not just for survival, but for concepts. Walsh considered this. I never thought of that as unusual. It is not merely unusual, Commander. It is unique. And, if I may say so, it is both terrifying and reassuring in equal measure. As the ceremony concluded and the new era of human Confederation relations officially began, Admiral Donovan found herself gazing out a viewport at the stars beyond, stars that now represented not just possibility, but responsibility. Winters joined her, following her gaze. Penny for your thoughts, Admiral? I was just thinking about something my grandfather used to say. Donovan replied softly. He was a Marine, old school. He told me once that the true measure of strength isn't how hard you can hit, but what you're willing to hit hard for. Sounds like a wise man. He was. Donovan turned from the viewport to face the celebration behind them. The Confederation was afraid of us because they saw our potential for destruction. They never understood that the same qualities that make us dangerous are the ones that make us the best damn protectors this galaxy has ever seen. Winters raised an eyebrow. Is that a prediction or a promise, Admiral? Donovan smiled, the expression of a Deathworlder who had found her purpose among the stars. Both, Ambassador, definitely both, and